This week on And You Don't Stop, we visit the land of Aztlan in Los Angeles and link up with one of the co-founders of the Brown Berets, Carlos Montes. We then go up north to the Bay in Oakland for Rooftop Live with Deuce Eclipse. It was cool to be able to link up with our friend Carlos Montes, a nationally respected leader in the Chicano immigrant rights and anti-war movement. He's also co-founder of the Brown Berets, a Chicano working class youth organizations that fought back for the people in the 60s and 70s. Carlos Montes takes us back and teaches us about the Zoot Suit Uprisings, a time when brown people fought back against the attacks and sparked an energy that later led to the Chicano Movement.
Well, there's a lot of history here. You know, there's a lot of history, Chicano history. Back in '43, you ever heard of the Zoot Suit?
Riots.
They call them riots. We call them
uprising.
Right, yeah. Where the Navy came into East LA and started attacking young Chicanos who were dressed in suits, just because they were Mexican the suit, they just started attacking them and stripping them. What the story doesn't tell you is that many communities fought back against the Navy.
What year was that?
1943. There was also a famous case in the 40s called the Sleepy Lagoon case, where a dozen young Chicanos were arrested for murder, you know, and tried in court. It was kind of like a legal lynching. They brought them in, you know, dressed in their clothes. They didn't get a chance to change a haircut. They were basically sent up, you know, for murder. But the case was appealed and it was found to be, they were eventually freed. But it's part of the history of, you know, there's always been repression of young men, you know, black, as well as Chicanos, Latinos, you know, just for being young Latino and being different, dressing different. You know, back then it was a suit. Some people may argue with me, you know, but I'm putting out that the Pachuco came out of El Paso, Texas, Juarez, where the young Chicanos rebelled against the racism by taking their own different style. Just like young folks today dress a different way, you know, whether it's the baseball cap or the low long pants, right? But the image of the Pachuco, or the suit suiter, was a young Chicano rebelling against racism and police brutality, right? So back then it was stereotyped as being a hoodlum, a dirty Mexican, right? So to us, it's a symbol of pride and resistance. You know, resistance, maybe not in a marching down the street, but resistance against police abuse and racism, right? You know, speaking Carlos, speaking, you know, a mixture of Spanish and English, and just demanding respect as a Chicano, you know. And imagine how it was in the 40s, the racist. It's discrimination now, but imagine how, you know, you still get stereotyping and driving white brown, driving white black. That exists today. Can you imagine how it was in the late 40s? There's a legacy of resistance. There's always been resistance, you know. So then in the 60s, the late 60s, where we get to what we call the Chicano Power decade, we built on that legacy, but we were more radical, where in the 50s, the GI Forum, the League of United Citizens wanted to integrate, work within the system. Some of the groups called themselves white. They said, we're white, right? And we're saying, no, in the 60s, we're saying, no, we're brown, we're proud, we want Chicano power, we're not white. You know, they were saying, wait a minute, they were saying like, wait, don't do that. We were trying to make ourselves white, and you guys are taking us back saying we're brown. They say, well, we're brown and proud, you know. But so we took it to another level, saying we want self-determination, equality, we're Chicanos. And recently, Rey Lopez Tijerina just died on Monday. He took it to another level by saying we want our land back. You know, the whole Southwest was robbed by the U.S. annexation, the Mexican-American War. So during the 60s, we're saying we wanted better schools, stop police brutality. But then when Tijerina led an armed raid in, June 7, 1967, in Tierra Maria, he led a group of Chicano campesinos to demand the return of the land, right? And when he did that, he said, man, we want better schools, stop police brutality. This guy wants the land back. It kind of just revolutionized our consciousness to saying this is a struggle about the land, right?
chilling here with the homie Deuce Eclipse.
What's up?
You know what I'm saying? Tell us what's going on with you, man. You know, we met you, doing some shows out here in the Bay. I know you rock, Deuce Eclipse. You do your thing with DJ Cool Kyle, and then y'all also rock with Bang Data. But tell us what you've been up to, bro.
Actually, we just put out the new Bang Data album called Mucho Poco. I got a copy for you before we leave. I'm working on a new solo joint with Cool Kyle. I got this album coming out with my homeboy Jay Lately, which is like an EP album coming out. And I got some solo stuff coming out this summer as well, man. Just working, man. Absorbing what's going on in the world, trying to put it through music, trying to make myself happy. Music is a spiritual thing to me, man, so I do it to heal myself first, because if I'm not good, the world can't be good. The main way I got involved, man, musically, in terms of trying to like connect with my roots, and Spanish was my first language, but as I got older, I had to learn English and all this other stuff, so some of it got lost in translation, but I just try to do my own thing, man. It's a Chicano style of rapping in Spanish and in English, and I just kind of like, a lot of the slang we use out here in California is a part of it, but I also try to remain universal. But the main reason I started doing the bilingual really is because as I got older, man, I just felt like there's a generational gap between, like, my grandfather, for instance. I'd bump in my music, he wouldn't understand anything that I'm saying. My parents, when I first was rapping his English, like, what is this, So as I got older, man, I just started incorporating it, and they started to realize what I was talking about, So really that's what I do it for, is mainly to remind all raza, that we don't forget about you, like, we're part of this culture. There's a lot of Latinos I know that don't speak English, but their music represents us in this country and from their countries, you know what I mean? So I just try to do my best, man, and connect both of those worlds, So the Spanish is for my gente, so that when I play them some tracks, if I'm in Nicaragua or Mexico or wherever, I could actually have music that they'll understand, you know what I mean? And then they're more open to the English and to the bilingual of it all, to make it more universal. So.
Eso.
Eso, el sonido salvaje me lleva a un lugar en mi corazón. Cierren los ojos, no tengan pena. Baila mi nena con el raga cantor. El sonido salvaje me lleva a un lugar en mi corazón. Cierren los ojos, no tengan pena. Baila mi nena con el raga cantor. Es peligroso mi estilo tan sabroso, y mi voz es el más poderoso. De todo un poco, en este lado todos somos locos. Just check the rostro. Yo jalo los raíz como palo. Somos alegres pero todos somos malos. Y hablo calo, aquí somos chicanos. Y mi clica, somos veteranos. Call it what you want, llegamos y nos vamos a otro lado pa' tocar. Aquí vamos a bailar el ritmo cumbia, California. We are the shit, where we from, we call it ñaña. Pasa la marihuana, la área de Santana. Aquí bebemos tequila, bebemos flor de caña. What you won't do, they call me number. El sonido salvaje me lleva a un lugar en mi corazón. Cierren los ojos, no tengan pena. Baila mi nena con el raga cantor. El sonido salvaje me lleva a un lugar en mi corazón. Cierren los ojos, no tengan pena. Baila mi nena con el raga cantor. Oye, compay, aquí we occupy cualquier calle que queremos. Siempre amor cuando nos vemos. Bandata sin veneno, mi terreno. Me encanta, mi alma no aguanta. Mi abuelita, esa mujer era santa. It's not black and white and I am not a panda. Como cambia todo lo que veo. Fuego en las calles, todo el tirateo. Pero nos ponemos fuerte. Siempre con amor para mi gente. Llanto como Chente, tu mujer lo siente. Latinos presente. Better rock or Deuce Eclipse, Cool Kyle, we the men, kid. It's not easy, move to it breezy. It's Deuce easy, yo, where you at, Cleasy? And where the sleazies, and where the treesies. El sonido salvaje me lleva a un lugar en mi corazón. Cierren los ojos, no tengan pena. Baila mi nena con el raga cantor. El sonido salvaje me lleva a un lugar en mi corazón. Cierren los ojos, no tengan pena. Baila mi nena con el raga cantor. Yo, in the house, put your hands up, and you don't stop. Sí, Deuce Eclipse, Cool Kyle, Vintage Futuro. El sonido salvaje me lleva a un lugar en mi corazón. Cierren los ojos, no tengan pena. Baila mi nena con el raga cantor. Hold up in the Bay Area, they can't see we. It's Deuce, Eclipse, up, snack my boy Key.